There is a kind of tiredness that no one talks about. Not the tiredness of the body. Something deeper, the tiredness of a soul that has spent decades being needed, being present, being responsible for everyone except itself. You answered when they called. You showed up when they needed. You softened yourself to keep the peace. You carried what others left behind. And you did it not out of weakness, but out of love. But somewhere along the way, quietly, without ceremony, you lost the thread back to yourself. Think about this honestly. When did you last make a decision purely because it brought you peace? When did you last rest without guilt? When did you last feel that your time, your energy, your presence belonged to you? For many people who have crossed 70 years of living, that question lands with unexpected weight. Buddhist wisdom teaches something gentle but profound. Suffering does not always come from pain itself. Often it comes from clinging to roles, expectations, and obligations long after they have stopped being truly ours to carry. After 70, life offers a quieter invitation. Not to harden, not to withdraw, but to finally ask what is actually yours to hold and what you have simply been too kind, too faithful, too tired to put down. This is not a conversation about bitterness or selfishness. It is about something rarer, clarity, and the understanding that some things, after 7 decades of living, you simply do not owe anyone anymore. 1. You owe no one constant availability mirror moment. Let me ask you something that may feel uncomfortable at first. When your phone rings, what is the first thing you feel? Is it warmth, the quiet pleasure of hearing a voice you love? Or is it something else? A small tightening in the chest, a silent bracing, a sense that something is about to be asked of you that you may not have the energy to give. If you recognize that second feeling, you are not alone, and you are not a bad person for feeling it. Many people who have lived 7 decades or more carry a habit so deep it no longer feels like a choice. The habit of being available, always reachable, always responsive, always emotionally present for whoever needs them: children, grandchildren, old friends, neighbors, distant relatives who only call when something is wrong. It began as love. It always does. You were the dependable one, the one people could count on. And for a long time, that felt meaningful. Because it was meaningful. Showing up for the people we love is one of the most honest expressions of the human heart. But here is what no one tells you about a lifetime of being available. At some point, availability stops being a gift you give and starts being a tax you pay. And the tax collector does not announce himself. He simply keeps arriving. Again and again, until you realize you cannot remember the last morning that belonged entirely to you. There is a teaching in Buddhism that is often misunderstood. Compassion, the Buddha taught, is not the same as self-erasure. These are two entirely different things. When you offer your presence freely, from a full and rested heart, that is generosity. That is love in its truest form. But when your presence is demanded, assumed, taken for granted, when people call not to connect but to offload, not to share but to claim, something shifts. What was once an offering becomes an obligation. And obligations carried too long without relief do not build closeness. They breed quiet resentment. The Buddha understood this. Even he withdrew from the crowd. He sat alone beneath trees. He walked in silence. He protected the stillness that allowed him to return to others with genuine compassion rather than exhausted performance. Think of an old oil lamp. You have seen one perhaps, or held one in memory. It gives light, warm, steady, faithful light. But a lamp cannot keep every room illuminated if no one tends the wick, no one replenishes the oil, no one shields the flame from the wind. Leave it unprotected long enough, and it does not burn brighter from effort. It simply goes out. You are that lamp. And there is no virtue in burning yourself down to the last drop, while everyone else stands in the warmth of your light and wonders why you seem so tired. So here is something worth sitting with today. Not a task, just a question. Ask yourself honestly, where in my life am I available out of love, and where am I available out of guilt? Notice the difference in how those two feel in your body. Love feels open. Guilt feels like a fist. This is not about closing your heart. This is not about turning away the people you care for. You can be kind and still rest. You can be loving and still let the call go unanswered sometimes. You can be generous with your presence without making yourself perpetually available to every demand that arrives at your door. You are still a good person when you rest. You are still a loving soul when you do not answer immediately. That truth, simple as it sounds, may take time to fully believe, but it is worth beginning to believe today. 2. You owe no one an explanation for protecting your peace. Have you ever declined an invitation and then spent the next 3 days feeling like you owed someone an apology? You said no to the family gathering, or you stepped back from a conversation that was pulling you somewhere dark, or you simply chose a quiet afternoon alone instead of being somewhere loud and draining. And it felt right in the moment. Your body relaxed, your mind grew still. And then the second guessing arrived. Maybe I should have gone. Maybe I came across as cold. Maybe they think I don't care anymore. And so you reach for the phone. You begin composing the explanation, the justification, the careful, apologetic paragraph that reassures everyone that your boundary was not personal, was not intentional, was not a sign of anything troubling. You work harder to explain your absence than you ever had to work to explain your presence. This is one of the quieter burdens of a long life spent being open. When people have had access to you for decades, your time, your attention, your emotional availability, they build an expectation around that access. It becomes part of how they understand you. And when you begin to protect yourself, when you begin to close a door that was always open, some people experience it as rejection, as a change in you that requires explanation, as something you owe them an account for. But here is what I want you to hear clearly. Their discomfort is not evidence that your boundary is wrong. The Buddha spoke often about right action, the practice of choosing behavior that does not disturb the mind unnecessarily, that does not generate more suffering than already exists in the world. And part of right action, part of genuine wisdom, is knowing when not to enter. Knowing when a conversation will cost more than it can possibly give. Knowing when a room, a gathering, a relationship in a particular moment will leave you more depleted than nourished. This is not avoidance. Avoidance is running from what needs to be faced. What we are talking about is something entirely different. It is stewardship, the wise, deliberate care of the energy you have left to spend. Think of a lake high in the mountains, still, clear, extraordinarily beautiful. That clarity does not happen by accident. It happens because the lake sits apart from the noise. Rain may fall into it, wind may touch its surface, but it does not open channels to every muddy stream that wants to pour in. It holds its own stillness, and because of that stillness, it reflects the sky perfectly. You are that lake, and you have spent years allowing every stream to enter. There is an old Zen story of a monk who was constantly sought out by villagers with their problems, their arguments, their need for him to weigh in on every dispute. One day, a student asked him, "Why do you sometimes simply walk away without answering?" The monk replied, "Because not every fire needs more wood. Not every conversation needs your participation. Not every conflict needs your mediation. Not every invitation needs your attendance. And not one of those choices requires your justification." So, sit with this today. Ask yourself gently, what am I still defending that no longer needs defending? What explanations am I still composing for choices that were already correct? At this stage of life, the word no is not a wall. It is a door, one that, when closed quietly, keeps something precious intact on the other side. You do not need to explain peace. You only need to protect it. And at 70, that single syllable no can be the most complete, the most honest, the most sacred sentence you speak. 3. You owe no one the version of you they remember. There is a particular kind of loneliness that almost no one names out loud. It is the loneliness of being in a room full of people who love you and still feeling completely unseen. Not because they are cruel, not because they do not care, but because the person they are looking at when they look at you is someone you no longer fully are. They see the provider, the one who always had an answer, always had resources, always knew what to do in a crisis. They see the fixer, the person who smoothed every conflict, absorbed every tension, made every family gathering feel possible. They see the strong one, the forgiving one, the one who always hosted, always helped, always said yes before being asked twice. And you sit there, carrying the quiet exhaustion of someone who has been playing a role for so long they cannot remember when the performance began. This is one of the hidden griefs of growing older, not the grief of losing people, though that is real, not the grief of a changing body, though that is real too, but the particular grief of being loved for who you were, rather than seen for who you are becoming, of being held to an identity the way a photograph is held in a frame. Fixed, unchanging, no longer quite true. The people who love us are not always wrong to hold those memories. Memory is how human beings make sense of each other. But when memory becomes expectation, when the people around you need you to remain the fixer because it is convenient for them, need you to remain the strong one because your softness makes them uncomfortable, that is no longer love. That is a quiet demand wearing the costume of familiarity. Buddhism has a teaching at the very center of its wisdom. Everything changes, not some things, not most things, everything. The self you were at 40 is not the self you are now. The roles that once fit you like a well-worn coat may now be something you are simply carrying out of habit, out of guilt, out of the fear of disappointing people who preferred the earlier version. But the Dharma is clear. To cling to an old self only because others are comfortable with it is its own form of suffering. You are not a fixed story. You never were. There is a moment each autumn when the trees stop pretending to be what they were in spring. The green releases, the shape changes. What emerges is something entirely different, quieter, more spare, more honest about what it actually is beneath all that fullness. And no one asks the tree to apologize. No one stands at the edge of the forest and says, "You should look the way you looked in May." The tree simply becomes what the season asks of it. You are allowed to do the same. You are allowed to become quieter, to need less noise around you, to grow more selective about where your energy goes and who receives your deepest attention. You are allowed to stop hosting gatherings that exhaust you, to stop mediating conflicts that are not yours to solve, to stop performing strength when what you actually feel is the need for stillness. So ask yourself honestly today, Which role are you still performing, not because it is true, but because it is expected? Which version of yourself are you maintaining for someone else's comfort rather than your own? You do not owe anyone the person you used to be. You are allowed to show up as who you actually are now. Softer in some places, firmer in others, more honest, more inward, more at peace with the shape that 70 years of living has quietly made you. That is not loss, that is arrival. 4. You owe no one your remaining years in service of their expectations. Something shifts after 70 that is very difficult to explain to someone who has not yet felt it. Time changes, not the clocks, not the calendar, but your relationship to time, the way it feels in the body, the way it sits in the mind. When you were younger, time felt like something you had in abundance, something you could spend carelessly and replenish tomorrow. There was always more of it somewhere ahead, waiting. You could waste a year and barely feel the loss. But somewhere past 70, that feeling quietly disappears, and in its place comes something else, a kind of clarity, a sharpened awareness that what remains is not infinite, that the days ahead, however many they are genuinely precious in a way the days behind never quite felt. This is not morbid. It is one of the most honest awakenings a human being can have. And yet here is the painful irony for many people. This awakening arrives at precisely the moment when the demands on their time are still relentless. The grandchildren need minding. The family gatherings need organizing. The adult children still call with crises that need solving. The cultural script about what a good parent, a good grandparent, a good elder is supposed to look like continues to run quietly in the background, dictating how each day should be spent. Nobody announces this out loud. Nobody sits across from you and says, "We are going to need your remaining years now." But the claims arrive nonetheless, in requests that assume your availability, in guilt that rises when you consider your own needs first, in the invisible weight of expectations so old and so familiar that you have stopped noticing they are expectations at all. The Buddha taught something that cuts through all of this with great gentleness and great precision. He taught that life is unfolding now, not yesterday, which is memory, not tomorrow, which is imagination. Now, this breath, this afternoon, this ordinary moment that will not come again. To spend your present moment entirely inside someone else's plans, to give away the now in service of expectations that were never truly yours to fulfill forever, is to abandon the only life you are actually living. Not the life you lived at 40, not the life that is coming. The one happening right now, while you are here and breathing and still capable of choosing. There is a quality to evening light that morning light does not have. Anyone who has watched the sun lower itself toward the horizon knows what this feels like. The light becomes amber, slower, extraordinarily warm. It does not try to illuminate everything at once the way midday sun does. It selects, it deepens, it makes ordinary things look briefly, unbearably beautiful. That light is beautiful precisely because it does not last forever. You are in that light now, and the question worth asking, not with fear, but with genuine honesty, is this: how much of that remaining warmth are you giving away to obligations that no longer truly need you? Where is your time leaking out of your days before you even notice it is gone? There is a monk who was asked late in his life whether he had any regrets. He sat quietly for a long time before he answered. He said only this: "I wish I had understood sooner that my time was sacred, that giving it away without awareness was its own kind of carelessness." You do not have to repeat that regret. Wanting some of your life back is not selfishness. It is not ingratitude. It is not a failure of love. It is what happens when a person wakes up fully to the value of what they have been given. You are not selfish for wanting this. You are awake. And being awake, at any age, is exactly where wisdom begins. 5. You owe no one forgiveness on their timeline. At some point in your later years, someone will say it to you. Perhaps they already have. Let it go. Move on. Forgive them before it is too late. Life is short. You do not want to carry this to the end. And the person saying it may mean well. They probably do. But notice something carefully the next time those words arrive. Notice whose discomfort is actually being addressed. Notice whether the conversation is truly about your healing or whether it is about making someone else feel better about what was done to you. Because there is a version of forgiveness that is genuine, that rises slowly and organically from within after the pain has been truly seen and honestly named. That kind of forgiveness is one of the most liberating things a human being can experience. It is real. It is worth moving toward. And then there is another version. The forgiveness that is asked of you before the wound has been acknowledged, before an honest apology has been offered, before the person who caused the harm has shown any real understanding of what they did. That version is not healing. That is performance. And the audience it is performed for is rarely you. This matters deeply because many older adults have spent a lifetime being asked to absorb pain quietly and release it quickly for the sake of family harmony, for the sake of not making things awkward, for the sake of being seen as the bigger person. And so the wound gets covered. A smile placed over it, the right words spoken at the right moment, and everyone in the room exhales with relief. Everyone except you. The Buddha taught genuine compassion, a compassion that was vast, patient, and rooted in clear seeing. But he never taught that truth should be bypassed in the name of peace. In fact, the entire foundation of Buddhist practice begins with seeing reality as it actually is, not as we wish it were or as others need it to appear. You cannot release what you have not yet honestly held. You cannot forgive from a place of true freedom when you are standing inside quiet pressure. Think of a wound on the skin. If it is cleaned properly, allowed to breathe, given time and honest attention, it heals from the inside out. The tissue rebuilds itself. The scar that forms is real and strong, but a wound covered too quickly, bandaged before it has been properly tended, sealed over while infection still stirs beneath, may look healed from the outside. It may appear smooth and closed, and yet underneath, something still aches, something never fully resolved. Forced forgiveness is that bandage. It keeps the wound hidden, but hidden is not the same as healed. There is no timeline for genuine release. The Buddha himself never set one. He understood that the human heart moves at its own pace, and that the conditions for true forgiveness, honesty, acknowledgement, inner readiness cannot be manufactured on someone else's schedule just because they have grown uncomfortable with your pain. So ask yourself honestly today, when you think about what you have been encouraged to forgive and release, are you moving toward genuine peace, or are you being asked to perform peace so that someone else can feel absolved? These are different things, and you are allowed to know the difference. You do not owe anyone premature absolution. You do not owe anyone a forgiveness that was never earned and never accompanied by honest acknowledgement. What you owe yourself is something far simpler and far more difficult than forgiveness. You owe yourself the truth. Start there. Everything real grows from that ground, And if forgiveness comes when it comes, in its own time, from its own depth, it will be genuine, it will be yours, and it will finally set you free. 6. You owe no one the burden of pretending you are not tired. How many times today have you said the words, "I'm fine," when you were not? Not as a deliberate lie, not out of manipulation, but out of something so deeply habitual that it no longer even registers as a choice. Someone asks how you are. The words come automatically. I'm fine. I'm managing. I'm okay. And then you move the conversation forward before anyone has the chance to look too closely. You have probably been doing this for decades. Most people your age have. Because somewhere along the way, a message arrived, delivered not in a single conversation but through 1,000 small moments across a lifetime, that your exhaustion was inconvenient, that your grief made others uncomfortable, that your loneliness, if named too honestly, would mark you as someone difficult, someone negative, someone who had failed to age with the grace and cheerfulness that was expected. And so you learned to manage the appearance, to keep the tiredness behind the eyes rather than in the voice, to smile at the family gathering even when something inside you had not smiled in weeks, to say you are doing well when what you are actually doing is surviving, quietly, day by day, carrying a weight that no one around you seems to fully see. This performance has a cost that accumulates slowly and is rarely itemized until the debt is very large. The Buddha placed clear seeing at the very beginning of the path toward freedom. Not optimistic seeing, not wishful seeing, clear seeing, the willingness to look at what is actually present without flinching from it, without softening it for someone else's comfort. This was not pessimism. It was the foundational act of honesty from which all genuine healing grows. Because you cannot tend what you refuse to name. You cannot rest from a weight you are still pretending is not heavy. You cannot find relief in a truth you have not yet allowed yourself to speak. There is a teaching in Buddhism called the First Noble Truth. Life contains suffering, not sometimes, not only for the weak or the unlucky, always, and for everyone, at some point. The Buddha did not teach this to discourage. He taught it because naming reality honestly is the only possible beginning of moving through it wisely. Denial does not protect us from suffering. It only ensures we carry it alone, in silence, without the relief that honesty might bring. Think of the oldest tree in a forest, a tree that has stood through generations, through drought and flood, through ice storms and long summers. That tree does not bloom in every season. In winter, it grows bare. It does not apologize for this. It does not perform spring in December to avoid making the forest feel uncomfortable. It simply stands in its actual season, rooted and honest, trusting that what is real is sufficient. You are allowed to stand in your actual season too. If you are tired, that tiredness is real, and it deserves acknowledgement first, and most importantly from yourself. If you are lonely, that loneliness is not a character flaw. It is a human experience that becomes heavier precisely because it is hidden. If you are grieving something, a person, a version of yourself, a life that did not unfold the way you imagined, that grief does not become smaller by being concealed. It only becomes lonelier. So today, try something quietly radical, not for anyone else, just for yourself, in the privacy of your own honest mind. Say it simply, I am tired, I need stillness. There are things I can no longer carry the way I once did. Notice what happens in your body when you stop arguing with the truth. That release, you feel that slight softening in the chest, That small exhale that goes a little deeper than usual, that is not weakness announcing itself. That is relief, finally arriving. 7. You owe no one a life that looks impressive from the outside. There is a question worth asking quietly, without judgment, just with honest curiosity. How much of the life you have built was built for you, and how much of it was built to be seen? Most people, if they sit with that question long enough, will find the answer uncomfortable, not because they were vain or shallow, but because the world most of us grew up in had very clear instructions about what a successful life was supposed to look like. A productive career, a well-kept home, children who turned out well, a reputation in the community that reflected effort and respectability, a certain cheerfulness in public, a certain composure, a certain appearance of having it together, even on the days when nothing felt together at all. And so you built, and you maintained, and you showed up looking the part year after year, decade after decade, and people admired you for it, or at least they seemed to. But here is the question that later life eventually forces into the open, whether you invite it or not. Did any of that admiration bring you peace? Not pleasure, not pride, not the temporary warmth of being seen favorably, but actual peace, the quiet, undefended, deeply rested feeling of being exactly where you belong, exactly as you are, without needing anything from the outside world to confirm your worth. For many people, the honest answer is no, or not as much as I expected, or I am not sure I ever stopped long enough to find out. The Buddha left behind a life that, by every external measure of his time and culture, looked extraordinarily impressive. He was a prince. He had wealth, status, beauty, a family. He had everything the world considers success. And he walked away from all of it, not out of despair, not out of recklessness, but because he had looked honestly at the gap between what his life appeared to be and what it actually felt like from the inside. And he found that gap unbearable. What he found on the other side of that choice was not more admiration. It was presence, freedom, the profound relief of a life no longer organized around the management of appearances. Buddhist wisdom calls this the shift from the outer to the inner, from performance to presence, from the question of how does this look to the far more important question of how does this feel, from seeking to be admired to simply, quietly, being free. Think of a river moving through a landscape. It does not pause to consider whether the people on the bank find it beautiful. It does not alter its course to appear more impressive from a certain angle. It simply moves where the land allows it to move, following the truest path available to it, giving water to everything it passes without asking for recognition in return. There is a dignity in that, a wholeness, a kind of freedom that performance can never achieve, no matter how polished it becomes. You are allowed to be that river now. You are allowed to let some of the carefully maintained surfaces go, the image of the busy, cheerful, always contributing elder, the appearance of a life that looks full from the outside, the performance of relevance for people who were never paying as close attention as you feared. Ask yourself honestly today, what are you still maintaining purely for appearance? What is costing you energy, costing you peace, costing you the actual experience of your own life, simply because you have not yet given yourself permission to stop? You do not need a life that photographs well. You do not need a life that impresses people who will never truly know you. You need a life that feels peaceful when no one is watching. That is the only version worth having. And you have more than earned the right to finally choose it. We have walked through 7 truths together, and perhaps what connects them all is something simple enough to hold in a single breath. You have given much, more than most people around you ever fully saw, more than was ever properly acknowledged. You gave your time when it was asked for, and often when it was not. You gave your patience, your presence, your emotional labor, your identity, your forgiveness, your strength. You gave and gave across decades, out of love, out of duty, out of the deep human need to be good, to be seen as good by the people whose opinions felt like they mattered most. And now life is asking something different of you, something quieter, something that may feel unfamiliar at first, even uncomfortable. It is asking you to come home to yourself, not to harden, not to close your heart against the people you love, but to finally stop abandoning the one person who has been with you through every single moment of those 70 years, the one who was there before the roles began and will remain when the roles fall away. You. The Buddha taught that freedom does not arrive from the outside. It begins the moment the grip loosens. The moment we stop holding so tightly to what others need us to be and allow ourselves, at last, to simply be what we are. There comes a time in a life when peace is no longer something you earn or wait for or justify to others. It becomes your home, your rightful, undefended, deeply deserved home. You do not become smaller by choosing yourself after 70. You simply stop abandoning what is left of your one precious life. And that, quietly, is everything.